Kim, how the heck are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. Nice to see you. I met you.
Yeah,
I mentioned on the phone.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but I remember when I was just starting out surf fishing.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I was walking Surfside.
And what was I doing? Was I fishing?
You were fishing.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, it was probably middle of the week because at the time I'm still a stay-at-home dad. So what I would do when I first started fishing before the channel and everything, I was just so at that time so addicted.
Yeah.
Like brand new, didn't know anything, and I was just walking everywhere. And so I was fishing. I remember I was on Surfside one day, and then I think I had seen you on social media around. I mean, I was still very new to the industry.
Did we chat?
Yeah. So I said hi to you, and we chat. It was just a very pleasant 1 minute thing.
Yeah.
And then just going on our way.
Yeah, let's catch a fish.
Yeah. But I just remember very distinctly. I'm like, oh man, I seen that guy on social. I was still new to the world, so I don't know very many people or how it works or anything.
How many years ago? You had to guess.
It had to be 4 to 5 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe 5 years ago.
Maybe
more.
Right when I came back from China or before I went. I don't know.
I mean, obviously my brain might be distorting the details, but something like 5 years. I don't know when you came back from China.
And since that time, you said nobody knew you. Now everybody knows you. Why don't you tell? Let's start. I want to also get into the stay-at-home dad thing because I did that, and I want to ask you a little bit about that. But why don't you tell everybody so we get it right up front? Your YouTube channel, what you focus on, your Instagram.
Yeah. So I'm a lousy YouTuber, and so I started as I guess we can just backtrack to kind of how I got into where I am now.
Please,
So actually,
you can even go back to how you got interested in fishing.
Yeah. So so I'll throw some details. I've shared this in other podcasts, so people who've heard this story probably already know. I might be new to you, so don't change your behavior once I get to what my previous occupation was.
Yeah.
But I started fishing as a kid, like most of us, just fishing like the local parks. As a 5-year-old, 6 or 7-year-old.
Who was the person responsible for getting you into it?
It was I had 2 cousins that are very similar age to me, Andy and Richard. Shout out to Andy and Richard, who really have always been way better at the game than I have, but we grew up doing it together.
Are they still into it?
Kind of.
Yeah.
So
they've lost a little interest in it, sounds like.
I don't know about interest, but we're older now.
Yeah.
So life.
Responsibilities.
100%. Yeah. So, we started off as kids. I think the first time was my uncle, Richard's dad, took us on a little tin can at a Lake Cuyamaca in San Diego.
Yeah.
And we rented that boat, and we were just, I don't know what the heck we were doing, I know I was probably holding my spinning reel upside down, just kids.
Yeah, right.
And then my cousin Andy, I think, had a night crawler off the back of the little skiff, and he caught a bass. Small little bass, probably like this big. And I remember he was hyperventilating because it was so excited. Yeah. And I still make fun of him about that, but he is actually to this day really like a fishing savant. He's a green bass fisherman, and that's all he does to this day.
Right.
But he to this day is just like one of the most knowledgeable fishermen that I personally know.
Yes.
But that was when it all started. And then we used to go to the local parks and have bluegill catching contests.
Where did you grow up?
Orange County.
Okay.
Yeah. So Irvine Regional Park was my backyard.
Yeah.
So I grew up, that was the first place where we would go, probably less than 10 years old. Our parents would drop us off there and leave, which is almost unheard of now.
Yeah,
right?
I know,
but
right?
We just go and we just catch a little bass. When they stock catfish, we catch catfish and catch bluegill and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's where it all started. And then fishing the Sierras, our parents would take us camping up to the North Lake, South Lake. We used to stay at a place called Creekside RV. We used to camp there every summer, and we used to just catch stock trout.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I started fishing, and then got into my early 20s, and I was a sports nut, so I got into baseball. I was really
playing baseball?
Yeah, so I sat on the bench for my varsity baseball team.
What position did you play?
I was a pitcher outfielder.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
so you could bring the heat a little bit?
For my size, I think I was okay.
Yeah. What'd you throw, 80 something?
I threw low 80s at my peak.
Yeah, okay.
So good enough to get on the varsity team. That didn't do very well, but got to sit on the bench, during that final year.
Sounds good to me.
But yeah, it's just got into sports, and then fishing slowly kind of went away in those 20s.
Yes.
And so my cousins were still fishing at the time.
I did kind of that same thing, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then fast forward, got to my mid 30s, and So post college, this is the part where I was like, don't change your demeanor with me. Stay exactly the same. I grew up a preacher's kid.
Oh, really?
And and so and then
Christian preacher?
Yeah. My dad was a pastor,
Yes.
and then grew up super religious.
What's your ethnicity?
I'm Korean.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I actually went to seminary.
You did?
Yeah, I got my Master of Divinity, and
Whoa.
I was actually a pastor for probably maybe more than 10 years, at least 10 years.
Wow.
That's what I did, like in my early 20s to my early 30s.
Are you still religious?
I don't know how to answer that. I think that I don't not believe.
Yes.
I think
Are you a little agnostic now or something?
I don't think I categorize myself as anything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I do believe. I do believe. I think.
But you're not so much into bringing the word to other people.
Yeah.
Or maybe you do that through your actions as opposed to.
I try.
Yeah.
I try. You know. I think that a lot of those principles are still dear to my heart.
Yes. Was there something that made you reject that, or
not necessarily.
Okay.
I think like again, it was my life. It was literally all I cared about.
This is so fascinating.
Yeah. So
it was your father obviously that led you to that, and then for 10 years you were a pastor. You had your flock. You know,
I wasn't the lead pastor, but I was a pastor at a decent sized church.
Did you find it rewarding when you were doing it?
It was rewarding. Like I said, it was my passion. It was my life.
Yes.
It was really what I cared about the most
Yes.
in life. So I think fishing kind of intersects that a little bit. So when I got to my early 30s, it was a really challenging time in that career path for me at that time, and it was a little bit of a dark night of the soul. Nothing like there was no like big thing that happened, but it was a difficult time in the church that I was at.
Yes.
And,
okay. You don't want me to ask you anything about that, I don't think, or do you?
It doesn't matter. It's not.
So what was the dark thing that was happening?
Oh no! It was just drama. Like there was
conflicts between personality stuff going on.
I guess. Yeah. So, but it's not important to get into that. It's not interesting to either. So.
Okay. That's what. Then we'll skip it.
But yeah. But I was in the really in the dark night of the soul. I think I would say that being in your 20s and even 30s, there's a lot that I didn't know about myself at the time. And I just wasn't mature very much. So I think I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. So when I was
Benji, I'm 67 and I'm still not mature.
You're only 67? You're kidding me. Dude, that means you have a lot of joy in your life, man.
Keep going, my friend.
So, but
this is really interesting stuff for me.
Cool. Yeah. I think when I was a pastor, looking back, hindsight's 2020. I was not comfortable in my own skin, and so I was very insecure, and so I think I did my work with a lot of sincerity. I did care. There was nothing overtly like anything that I was doing, but I was so insecure that everything that I was doing was to know that I was doing a good job.
Yeah.
Like I needed like everything
that
I did.
Affirmation.
If I preach a sermon, it was like I needed that to be a good sermon. And I think like when you're a pastor, you should do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And you should help people because you're just helping them. And I think I was trying to do that, but I was so insecure that I needed that affirmation too.
Yeah.
So then you start doing things to. It's like a vicious cycle. So I wasn't in the healthiest place looking back.
This is very honest.
And so 100%.
But very interesting and very helpful to people watching. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. So it was like I think there were things that were not in my control that may have been unjust, but there were also things on my side that I could have been a better, more mature person at the place and more secure in who I am as a person. You know? And so, anyways, long story short. I was really dark night of the soul at that time, and that's when fishing kind of crept back into my mind as a memory of like, man, I really missed that.
Yeah.
And so I think psychologically, my soul was yearning for a safe place.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
It does.
And so
it does.
So I crept back into it. My cousin Andy set me up with like my first nice rod and reel setup.
Yes.
And then I started hitting the local parks for bass again. And then Irvine Lake at the time, shut down.
Yes.
So that I don't remember when that was, but if we look up when Irvine Lake closed back then, that was when I was getting back into fishing.
Okay.
And so
you made the comment a second ago that when you turned to fishing, it had something in common with you being a pastor. And I assume you're saying there's some spiritual aspect to it. And what I would ask you is, or what I think maybe you'd like to point out, if you're not fishing for the fish. In other words, you're fishing. The fish is a bonus.
Yeah.
But if you're fishing for the adventure,
Yeah.
and the discovery,
Yeah.
and the beauty of nature,
Yeah.
I get it. Am I on the right track?
I think that in its purest form, and there's a lot of stuff within fishing that is all over the place, but I think at the purest form of why we love what love what we're doing is that feeling.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
I'm with you. And so, 100%.
So I got into fishing in that space, coming from that place, and I ran to fishing as a refuge.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's a carnal aspect to it too. I just love catching fish.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Right.
Just as a dude, and so so just went back into that, and then Irvine Lake closed, so I was like, man, I don't want to just keep hitting like Cerritos and like these small ponds. What do I do? And then it just hit me, like one of my other uncles, when we used to always he used to always surf fish when I was a kid too. Like we'd be camping, and then like near the beach, and he would always bring his little coffee grinder, and we'd be tossing sand crabs. I remember that, and I was like, dude, the beach is everywhere. This sounds.
We can go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, this opens up a whole new world of possibilities,
of course.
And so, I walked into Big Fish Bait and Tackle. Just
in the beautiful city of Seal Beach, California.
Yeah, that's right.
You got me going on my commercial.
Yeah. So I just kind of knew that store was there, so I walked in randomly. And there was, I remember seeing Bill Varney's book, The Light Line Surf Revolution. Yes. I'm like, dude,
Bill's a great guy.
Yeah,
he is
awesome.
a USC fan, but what can I do? You can see what I am.
Yeah. Oh shoot.
We'll forgive you, Bill.
Yeah.
You probably are too.
Yeah. So I bought that book on a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And devoured it, and fantastic book, and Bill's a great guy, and. I was just along in my journey, just wanting to learn. That's probably around the time when I ran into you.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. And so, I became a stay-at-home dad. I used to sell paint after I was a pastor. What do you do? What are your qualifications to do anything? So my buddy got me into a management training program at Sherwin-Williams.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about paint.
Yeah.
Spent 3 years there, ran a store in Huntington Beach.
Shoot.
And again, without knowing anything about paint, I did really well. I was like, I think at the time, the only store manager in Orange County that won a President's Award for that first year of management, because I think my commitment was always like, take care of people.
Yeah.
So I was saying, I don't know a lot, but I'll find out for you. And let me take care of that for you.
Yeah, and just a little bit of time that we've spent here now, you're a smart guy, so I'm sure you assimilated.
I don't know about smart, but we made it happen. We made it work.
That's great.
And then at that time, without getting into details, we were having some personal family issues at home.
Yeah.
And so I decided to quit my job. They actually offered me a promotion to be a sales rep, and I turned it down and quit in the same phone conversation.
Oh, wow.
Because
it would have been more money and
100%.
Yeah.
But I think family first, and
Yes.
so there were some issues going on at home that was important for one of us to be there. My wife has always made more money than me.
Yeah.
And so we looked at the numbers and we're like, we can live on this.
Yeah.
So I quit my job, and that's how I became a stay-at-home dad. And then started fishing more.
My respect and esteem for you is going through the roof.
No,
incredible stuff.
Yeah, so I was fishing a lot.
How do you like being a stay-at-home dad? How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Do you homeschool them, or is that what you do? Or
no.
Okay.
They're 16, 14, and 12 now.
Okay.
When I started that, they were, I forget, way younger.
Yeah.
Probably 8 years ago or something like that now.
So. It's cool though, isn't it? I did the same thing because I had 9, 7, 6, 10 going on.
Oh, okay.
And so I was home.
Yeah.
So I would work, everything around their schedule, picking them up at school, doing all that cooking and everything. So I found it to be not only rewarding, but a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's so much fun hanging out with your kids.
And I'm going to protect myself too. Yeah. It's busy too, man. You got
to now you have
cook all the meals. And
respect for women, housewives.
100%, dude. Like the day goes by fast, So,
oh my God, yeah, it flies by.
So yeah, it was a blessing to do that, and that's when
very fulfilling.
And but then also like that's when the thought came like, hey, what if I could actually fish? Make a few bucks, and not have to ever go back to a 9 to 5.
Right.
So that's how the YouTube channel was born.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, wasn't ready to do it. I'm still a very average fisherman, but at the time I was very, very learning. But I was like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to learn along the way. And this is not about me like, this is not a flex channel. This is not about like what a great fisherman I am, because that's very disingenuous and not true.
Yeah.
But I think like people can identify with learning and process.
They can learn along with you.
Why? I mean, why do people go on YouTube most of the time? How do I fix this toilet?
100%.
How do I fix this?
Yeah.
How do I catch a halibut?
Yep.
You know. So
exactly.
That's kind of how I built the channel.
What is the channel? So everybody out there knows. And then we'll keep going here.
Yeah, really creative channel. Benji Kim Fishing.
Perfect.
This is my first and last name.
That's the way to do it, man. Don't hide the ball.
Yeah. So. Just have been running with that, and I think.
So, if there was a mission statement for your channel, it sounds like expert, novice, whoever. If you're interested in learning something, you want to partake in this great sport of sport fishing, and you want to understand that it's more than just catching the fish. That's important.
Yes.
And you're going to show them that.
Sure.
But you're going to also show them this is a great family activity and so much more. Is that on the right track?
Yeah, I think so. It's I think a big core of the channel is like learning, like how to do things.
Yeah.
How to catch what techniques and things like that. And then also it's just sharing the stoke and being positive. I think that when I'm at my best, and I'm human, but when I'm at my best, I'm a positive person.
Yeah.
And I think that I know that about myself, and I can say that without being egotistical about it.
Yeah,
I think when I'm at my best, I think I'm positive and I bring like good vibes.
Positive energy.
Totally.
So, I can see that right here.
And so, that's me, and I want to share that with people and inspire people. Like when I catch a fish, it's not about flexing the catch. There's pride in that, but it's more like you see that and you get inspired to go out there and try too.
100%. Yes.
And so just creating excitement, and hopefully just, now I am a part of the Southern California fishing industry.
You are.
And so like it's just want to be a positive addition to it, hopefully.
Yes.
Be a good steward of the years and years of experience and lives that have dedicated their lives to this industry.
Yes.
And just be a positive part of it.
Yes.
And however long I'm here, to just leave a good mark where I was able to be helpful for what we're trying to do.
I know, because when you're doing these YouTube videos, myself included, after we croak, that stuff's still going to be out there, right.
So yeah.
You kind of want it to be positive. You want somebody to watch that 20 years later and say, whoa, that guy seemed like a cool guy, nice guy. He was positive about everything, interested in helping people, and you certainly give that vibe off.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah. So I think what I'm happy about is I think I am a little older, a little wiser, and a little bit more secure in who I am and what I bring to the table. And so I think I'm able to bring that into the industry. Whereas when I was in my clergy life, there was so much insecurity. But now, I knew who I am and I know what I'm trying to do, and it's pure.
Yes.
I'm human, so I'm sure it's not perfect, but it's way more pure. It's just what I'm saying is really what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I understand.
It's just me, and I'm not trying to I don't do it to receive affirmation. I do it because I love it.
Yes.
And so I think it's a much healthier time in my life.
Yes.
And to be able to do it, and thankfully it's in the world of fishing.
Yeah, for sure.
So just been grinding away. It's been, I think, about a little less than 5 years since I started the channel. And just having fun with it. It's hard work. You're a content creator.
Yeah.
So every piece of content that goes out there, it takes a lot of time, man.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
And so it's
well, especially I've got to say that you are way more professional than I am.
I don't know. Yeah.
And so I think it takes you a lot more. I'm trying to turn content out, and I don't ever put anything out there that I think is garbage.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've seen your stuff. It's beautifully edited and well done. It's really well done.
Thank you. I try. I mean, I think it's watching a lot of YouTube videos on how to make a YouTube channel, and I do a lot of studying and research.
Yes.
And some of the pieces of advice is, hey, you're never gonna, when you first start, it's gonna suck, but just make every video you make, try to make it 1%
a little bit better.
Just a little bit. Maybe try one little different thing. You know, maybe try, and so.
And you can't, see if you agree with me, you can't let perfection be the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
If you're striving for perfection, there's times when I say, oh, geez, I mispronounced that. I'm like, too bad, better done than good. I'm moving on.
I do struggle with that. Yeah. Sometimes weeks go by without new content coming out because I'm just not happy with it.
Yeah, I understand.
And
I understand.
But sometimes, you just got to put it out there into the world. And
and if somebody has a negative comment, You'll live.
Yeah,
I'll live.
yeah. It's hard, dude. I'm a people pleaser, Phil.
Yeah.
So I think like words affect me, you know.
Yes.
And so, but again, that's just learning to have a little thicker skin and approaching everything with love, not being defensive.
Yeah.
And just letting it be okay. You know, some people are going to be mean. That's fine. You know, that's.
No, there's one of them out there. Yeah. Dan Lightfoot. Be careful, that guy.
You know, like I think when there's negativity out there, like Gary Vee, who is actually a influencer, entrepreneur influencer out there, and he always says like, yeah, dude, like when they do that, I genuinely feel bad for them. You know, and it's more like he doesn't block them or anything. He'll respond back, and he's like, dude, how can I help? Yeah. You know, it's more like compassion, because I think when people are behind a keyboard and they're just like writing things, like they've got to be going through stuff. You know, like,
exactly, 100%. But nobody gets that angry about a guy catching a perch on the beach. There's something else going on.
You know, and so like it's not to. If you did something wrong, then own it. You know, and move on. Yeah. And you treat everyone with love and kindness. And I think like I can try to do that. You know? I was getting older, it's like control the things that you can control. Yes. You know, and the things you can't control, like you gotta let it go.
It sounds like Marcus Aurelius here.
I don't know.
Stoicism.
I don't know. It's hard though. I'm far from perfect with that, but I try. Exactly. I try. So.
And do you have an Instagram? Do you have any other social media?
Yeah. So everything is the same. Benji Kim Fishing on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok too, and YouTube. So those are the 3 platforms that I'm out there on.
Perfect.
And just learning up with this fast culture, man. Things are always changing.
I know. We're going to get a little more inside baseball with Benji and ask him. I think he's going to say, torture me, because I'm not going to tell you, but we're going to ask him some of his favorite beaches to fish, favorite techniques, time of the year. We're going to ask him some of those things. But before we do you do any other kind of fishing besides surf fishing?
Pretty multi-species. Like, you know, right now is like local stock trout season, so I'm out there a couple times every season. Yeah. Just have fun, you know.
Do you go to the Sierras or anything?
I haven't done that in several years. Yeah. I want to. I just it's a matter of carving out that time and making that commitment. So, but it's sentimental to me. Yeah. So I think,
why is it sentimental?
Well, that's what I grew up. We used
to go to the Sierra.
Yeah, we used to. Well, like the South Lake, North Lake. Yeah. You know, that area. It's a little bit more commercial, but you know, that's what I grew up doing, and so sentimental, because that's where we would catch our first stock trout.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Kids. So, but yeah, I dabble in trout. And then I dabble in offshore. Yes. You know, I go bluefin. I go out maybe 5 or 6 times a season, whether it's the islands or offshore. Yeah. You know, and caught a tuna kind of on accident a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
That was like my first one. I was like, it was like a 25-30 pound little schoolie, and like kicked my butt. You know, like the drag wasn't set right, and so the whole time I was like looking back on the video, and it was like a 30-minute fight. It was 20-pound test. Yeah. But you know, I'm looking at thing, and every time I'm going up and cranking down, the line's just going out, and it's just like making zero ground for like 20 minutes. Didn't know what I was doing. So that kind of led me down the rabbit hole of like, hey, this is fun. Like, it's kind of cool, like chasing tuna. Yeah. You know, and that's a whole nother thing. It's all about the people too, man. Like, you go on these boats, and it's just like hanging out for a day or two with positive, like, we're all happy to be away. Yep. And like just sharing that stoke together, you know, being happy for each other, and like that's what I enjoy about those trips.
Yeah, me too. People are great, and then the adventure, the hunt, that whole thing, right? The anticipation, the planning, all of those things, right?
Yeah. So you know, I do the boat thing, sport boat thing several times a year. I think that'll be the main stuff, the offshore stuff, and then a little bit of trout and surf fishing. What else is there? I think that's the majority of what I do.
Yeah. Do you ever drive to Mexico and fish, or do anything like that?
Oh, I've done the Tony Reyes.
Oh, okay.
Done that one. That's probably the.
How'd you like that? That's out of San Felipe, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, amazing. It was
right.
Probably like the best fishing that I've ever experienced in my life.
You're catching cabrilla.
Cabrilla.
What time of year was it?
It was summertime. I think it was June. So it was stinking hot. Yeah. But.
Dorado, maybe?
Yeah, we didn't get that. Like our priority, like my Ponga, we made it a priority to target shallow water cabrilla. Yeah. So just throwing jerk baits in like like next to the rocks. Yeah. You know, and
that's so much fun.
And we spent most of our time doing that.
And for people who don't know, Tony Reyes, you're on a mothership, right? Why don't you tell everybody? And then you go out on your ponga every morning.
Yeah, so you go out, there's a mothership, kind of like a little mini cruise ship. Yes. And then they got like 10 pongas attached to it.
Right.
So every morning and then every afternoon, there's a morning session and afternoon session. They lower the pongas into the water. Every ponga has a captain, and then maybe up to 1 to 3 people will go on the ponga.
Are you with the same captain every day?
Yeah. So once you're assigned the ponga, then that's your ponga for the rest of the trip. At least when I went. And and go out, and then you go out like at 6 a.m., fish till like 10 or 11, come back, shower, eat, take a quick nap, and then back out at 3 until it gets dark.
That's awesome.
You do that for a whole week.
Yeah.
And and so the food's amazing and the fishing's phenomenal. I think like fishing in Mexico is way easier than our pressured waters, you know?
Seems like it.
And so, I mean, you still got to work, and there's still some grinding involved, but in general, it's just a lot easier to find that wide open bite that we're all dreaming of. So.
And same thing on the surf down there.
Yeah.
My brother and I, when we were kids, Benji, we go down to a beach called Playa Socorro in San Quintin. We could fill 2 ice chests full of barred perch. We did.
Yeah.
And then we'd go to Chinatown. Yeah. In those days, Chinese loved barred perch and paid top dollar. We'd sell it, have gas money, a little extra money in our pocket, and boom, back down again.
Those are the core lifelong memories, man.
Yeah, but you can still go there, and many beaches around Collinet and those areas. We got to go.
It's on my to-do list.
Hey, I'm your guide.
Okay.
I know Mexico.
Okay.
And one of these days, you and I are going to shoot a video together. You shoot yours, I'll shoot mine.
Okay.
And we'll go to Mexico.
I am
We
down.
might even bring this guy along. Yeah. If the federales want us to sacrifice somebody, we got them. Right
No, I'm down, man, for all of that. Just kidding.
Yeah, especially that.
Yeah. So I think when I first started, like when I first made my Instagram and just started the YouTube channel, we had a family vacation trip down to Cabo.
Yeah.
Like we stayed at an all-inclusive down there.
Yeah.
And Wesley, the Cabo surfcaster, I was seeing.
Oh, he's great. I love Wes.
I remember seeing his content. I'm like, dude, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
Catching all kinds of stuff.
His
Dorado.
footage. Yeah.
Yeah. Yellowtail, you name it.
Yeah.
Roosters.
Yeah. So I was like, I want a rooster from the surf.
Yeah.
Like, that would be so cool. So I booked him. And we went, and again, this is right when I was first starting, so I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But I caught one, dude, with Wes.
Oh, that's great.
And it was like a 50-pounder, dude.
Oh my God.
I'll show you the picture later. But
You're kidding
it was,
me.
I mean, and that was according to Wes. Wes said it was a 50-pounder.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it weighed. We did a quick release.
But it was big, right?
It was big. It was big. And so, but yeah, that was a really cool experience. Probably, I would still say like my number one catch, like from shore, being able to do that. Because you see all the footage that Wes puts out, and it seems so easy, but it's not always easy. You got to grind. And that day, I was casting probably for 3 to 4 hours on a 13-foot rod, no bites.
Wow.
And Wes was doing his thing, like barefoot, going on reefs and rocks and jumping into water and whatever. He was catching stuff, but I didn't get a single bite. And then near the end of our session, we were literally just like chit-chatting, like as it was with the wrap up. And then he saw some ladyfish, he said, swimming close. He took off, so I just followed him. Yeah. And I made a cast, and then the stick bait stopped.
Oh, shoot.
And so, that was
because, I've caught roosters in the surf, but they've been like this. A 50-pound rooster is a dream catch.
I'm going to pull it up for you.
You can do that, but you can also send it to me, and I'll lay it over this video so everybody can see it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I'll pull it up later.
Yeah, send it to me later. We'll make sure you see that rooster. I guarantee it. That is an amazing catch. And Wes is a great guy.
Yeah. He's super nice. Yeah. But grateful for it. And again, like every fish is a gift. And
Benji, I'm serious about one thing. You and I are going to go down there. We're going to go down and do that.
I'm down. I've been wanting to actually surf fish down there, just experience it, because I know that I'm guessing that it might be a little less pressure.
Yeah, it's insane, man. It can get insane. You can catch sea bass in the surf.
Oh my gosh.
It's a halibut. There's some really cool spots down there that I fished, and it's amazing the fishing down there. Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, I'm down.
What is your favorite kind of fishing? Is it the surf?
Yeah, I think the surf, because
of the accessibility of it, or because it's you're kind of your own captain when you do it too.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is, when you're on the sport boats, I mean, don't get me wrong, like when you're on the sport boats, you still have to know what you're doing, and there's a reason why there's 1 or 2 guys that are catching most of the fish on those sport boats.
100%.
Because you have to have technique and all this stuff, and thing about sport boats though is there's sonar and the captain's finding the fish for you. So you still have, even though you still have the skill aspect, like you're not the one finding the fish.
Right.
You know, the surf is, exactly like you said, you're your own captain. Like
you figure it out. You've got to look for the holes, look for the structure.
I think when I started out, that was the experience. You walk up and you're like, what the F? Like, where do you start? It's very intimidating in the beginning.
It is.
You know, and no one showed me that in the beginning, you know? Like, I think I got a lot of tips, and there were like groups out there, you know, communities and stuff like that that were very, very helpful. But at the end of the day, like, no one told me where, you know? So I had to go out and just figure it out, you know? And so I think that's why I love it so much, is it's the feeling of like reward. The rewarding feeling is like, you know, like you go out there, you are your own captain. You have to find the structure. You have to learn to understand what the water looks like and why it's looking like that.
Exactly.
You prepare now like preparing like, hey, knowing that it's going to be too rough for it to be maybe good, you know, or hey, conditions look really nice and it might be worth a shot.
Yeah.
And then going there and still having to adapt and, you know, like figure it out. So I think
changing lures and changing bait and changing techniques.
100%. Yeah. So I think I don't know what my favorite is. I think it still might be sight fishing corbina on ultralight gear.
That's pretty fun, isn't it?
I don't do it as much now.
It's our bonefish.
Yeah, exactly. And I have caught bonefish in Belize.
Yeah. That's cool.
Which is a whole nother thing. But but yeah, it is. It's our backyard bonefish, and I think that's what the thing that I first started making videos on was because I was so enamored by the sight fishing aspect. Because those corbina, like, they'll hit bumper ankles, right?
Yeah, oh my God, all the time, right?
Yeah, and so I think just learning from some of the old school guys who have done it way, way longer, who are, in my opinion, like the purists of like the sight fishing game, and just walking the sand, having had the privilege of walking the sand with them, picking their brain, them willing to share information with me.
Yes.
I hold that very close and dear to my heart, and I realize it's a high skill game. Like, you can catch corbina in a myriad of ways, and there's no right or wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
But in that specific technique of sight fishing them, and I don't fly fish, which is the purest way. But I think sight fishing them, stalking them, seeing them, making your lead, you know, presentation, thinking about all that stuff.
And anticipation of getting a bite.
Yeah, the timing of your cast, and then like bringing it into their face, and just... And I realized what old timers have taught me is when you do it right, they eat.
Yeah.
And the reputation of sight fishing corbina is, they're super finicky, and, you know, half the time they'll just turn around and walk away. And what I learned from the old school guys is
you're doing it wrong if they're doing that.
The presentation is everything. And so you bring that crab or whatever you're throwing in front of them in the right way, they can't not eat. You know?
So Benji.
And so this, like, it's so like challenging.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
And so
that begs the question, what is the right way? Everybody out there wants to know, how do they present their bait? I'm sure it's way more complicated than we have time to, but what is the right way to do it?
No, I think, well, again, I only speak for myself, and again, I'm not good at it, because I've sight fish corbina with guys that are good at it, and they're good.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think I'm okay now.
Guy that used to run the Freedom, Tino Valentine's one of those guys.
Okay,
He's very, very good at it.
Yeah. So, but I think like the right lead. So obviously, if you see them swimming, like number one, there's times when the corbina are swimming side to side, horizontal, swimming along the front trough. It's a little harder to get them to eat when they're swimming like that. The behavior you want to see is them charging. Right, and they come up to the hard pack to eat off the beds. Yeah. So you want to, number one, find them when they're doing that, and then you got to be able to measure their cadence, and there's a rhythm to when they come in and out, and so you can kind of predict it. And a lot of times when you see them going back out, you'll see them make like a little turn like this. You won't see them turn all the way around because the whitewater will come through. But when you see them turning, then you know they're about to charge forward.
Right.
So at that point, that's when you want to make your lead, and you want to plant that crab as they're coming forward. So timing is crucial. You got the water coming through. I'm using a little split shot, you know, and so you want to plant it right there, and you want them to run into it. But if you put it where they're looking to eat, and you do it the right way, and crab's not helicoptering around and it's like starting to dig, they'll eat it every time.
100%.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
A lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
So
right. Takes some practice.
Yeah, but the lead is very important, and you don't want to cast it too far because they'll never see it.
Yeah.
You don't want to land it on their head because they're gonna spook.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just so many different factors with the water moving and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot to it, but
fluorocarbon important?
I've actually been running straight braid.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Really?
I run straight braid because that's what some of these old school guys are.
So you feel the bite more, or because it's just more effective? It sounds like obviously
sensitivity for sure, and casting wise, a little easier to cast.
That's true.
And ultimately, the reputation that corbina have is that they're line shy.
Correct.
They might be or they might not be. I'm not a scientist, you know, so I'm not going to make any claims that I can't back up with actual evidence. This is all anecdotal, but I will say that the guys that I've walked the sand with have been doing it for a very, very long time. They're extremely good. I watched one of them catch 6 over 20 inches in one session with me, and I skunked that day. And I was running a Carolina rig with 4-pound fluorocarbon.
Yeah.
And he was running straight braid and putting a little split shot this far off the hook using a size 12 little mosquito hook.
Yeah.
And I think he caught 4 to 6, a bunch of 20-inch corbina, like textbook style, and I skunked that day. So then I'm like, well,
the empirical evidence seems to suggest
it works.
Yeah, right.
You know, and these guys, they're like, no, they're not line shy. So then, okay, well, everyone's been telling me they're line shy, but I'm seeing them, like, I'll put them up against anybody, like fluorocarbon or not.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, whether they're line shy or not, I'm not here to make that argument, but they're clearly eating the braid.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to hinder them as long as you're presenting it.
Yeah, right.
So that's what I run. I run like 8-pound braid.
Yep.
Like a size 12 to size 10 owner mosquito hook. And then also what some of those guys have taught me is like the biggest sand crab you could find, which kind of runs contrary to the way we typically see rig. A lot of times we do back-to-backs, medium-sized, smaller ones. And I agree, when you're just blind casting, that's probably a better way to get bit. But when you're sight fishing them and trying to get that one fish to eat, biggest one, adds a little weight.
Yeah,
you can have a little bit more control. And then I think it's a lot more visible when they start digging down.
Yeah.
So.
Soft shell important?
In this particular context, no.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
This flies in the face of a lot of people, and I love it, man. This is the kind of stuff I love.
But again, like I'm just saying, like if you're blind casting the troughs and throwing into holes and stuff like that, soft shells I think are probably more likely to get bit.
Yeah.
Back-to-back medium size, for sure. This specific technique is unique in this niche. It's different. And again, you can catch them with. I've sight fished them with like small sand crabs. They'll eat it. Caught them with mussel. But that to me seems to be like a really effective way to do it. But I think people can get confused when they watch those videos because they think that it's the same. They should do the same thing if they're casting out, and I think it's different. It's different technique.
Yeah.
So
when you're casting out, what is the difference? Then are you fishing braids though?
No. If I'm just sea rigging, if I'm just blind casting, want to catch anything, then I run like a 6 to now I'm running like 8 to 10 pound. I don't even care. I don't think fish are line shy. I think, just in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I see it all the time where guys are catching them on 20, 25, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought these things were line shy, and they're not.
So that's what got me thinking too, is because I'd be sight fishing, and then there'd be these bait and weight people on beaches, like pulled up, and they're running high-low rigs with 20, 30-pound test, big old 5,000 size reels, like running mussel, right? And they're catching big corbina, like all the time. Big spot fin, like regularly, right? Probably more effective than what I'm doing in some cases, And so I'm like, well, but then everyone's saying they're line shy. But then how are they catching so many corbina with 30-pound tests?
Right.
So I don't know,
Exactly. I'm with you, man.
So again, not trying to ruffle any feathers, not trying to be right. I'm just sharing what I've learned and what works for me.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing about fishing, and I always reiterate on my channels, this is the way I like to do it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that's the right way.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that's the way you have to do it.
Exactly.
Do it the way you, and I bless you, I'm stoked for you.
Yep.
100%. I'm not just saying that. I think that, and I find beauty in that, is that there's different ways to do everything, and as long as we're having fun, that's all that matters.
Yeah, 100%. This is so illuminating for sure. Some of my best memories, Benji, talking about stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
Before my kids would go to Bishop Montgomery High School in the morning, we'd go down to the Redondo Pier, 5:30 in the morning, and catch a bunch of corbina. And that's still a very good area down there.
Yeah.
And then I'd drop them off at school, and when they came home, we'd have corbina, for lunch. But that is such an incredible fish here. What else? Let's talk halibut.
Yeah.
Because that is something I know you love to fish.
Yeah.
I think you fish a lot of Lucky Craft, right?
Yeah.
And that's a super effective lure for catching halibut.
Yeah.
Take us into that world. What am I looking for? High tide, low tide, does it matter?
Yeah.
And how do you fish the Lucky Craft? Stop and go.
Yeah.
Fast wind. Go ahead.
Yeah. So shout out to Lucky Craft, they've been.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
there you go.
They've been very kind to me over the years.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I think halibut fishing is kind of like the sexy fish in Southern California.
It is, yeah.
Outside of sea bass, but sea bass is still, I think they still maintain their ghost reputation a little bit.
Yes.
Even though they seem to have grown in population quite a bit.
Yeah.
But halibut is very accessible, and everyone wants to catch a halibut.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I think that's probably
especially from the surf.
Yeah, from the surf.
That's a cool thing, man.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so there's different ways to target them. I target them 99.9% of the time with the Lucky Craft, with the jerkbait, and that's definitely one of the major ways. Oh, look at that!
Oh, shoot! Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Come on in here, Michael.
Look at that turd roller.
Look at that nice sandbag.
Yeah.
This is Michael Limon, Benji.
What's up, Michael? Nice job, man. Sorry, I'm awkward.
Good job.
What'd you get him on?
Squid.
Nice.
Thanks for sharing, Michael.
Nice.
See that? We got live fishing
That was
going
cool.
on.
Look at that. That's awesome.
I love it, man. That's so cool.
Get him on this video, man. I don't know
He's
anything.
on it.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I think so halibut fishing, again, I caught mine by accident on a Carolina rig with a gulp camo worm.
You're talking about your first one?
My very first one, it was like this big,
Yeah.
or this big probably. I didn't even know you can catch halibut from
Yeah,
the ship at
right.
the time. That's
Whoa.
how green I was.
Yeah.
And then it opened up a whole can of worms where I got this, we all start this,
Quest?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, this quest to catch our first legal, right? And then there's some guys that go out there and they do it on the first time. And you're like, I hate you so much, you jerk, It took me almost 2 years to catch my first legal.
Oh, wow.
And I went hard, Phil.
Yeah.
Like I put the corbina stuff aside.
Yeah.
And I was exclusively halibut
After a
for
halibut.
almost 2 years.
Wow.
And I will say I caught hundreds.
Uh-huh.
I was drop shotting.
Yes.
So that's probably, in my opinion, if you're just starting out, in my opinion, the technique you should start with.
Super effective.
Because it's user friendly.
Yes.
Just the 1 ounce torpedo on the bottom. You can either use like a size 2 owner mosquito and you can nose hook the soft plastics, or you can go an EWG and make it weedless, like a 3.0 or maybe a 4.0 with a 4 to 5 inch fluke or paddle tail.
Yeah.
Maybe leave like this much space between your hook and your sinker.
Uh-huh.
And
how do you work that in the surf?
Yeah.
You make a cast? And
yeah,
then what?
you cast. So for me, when I first started, I was using a size 2 owner mosquito, and I was nose hooking little 2.5 inch slim swims from Z-Man.
Uh-huh.
And they're scented, and they're like small little, and I would fish Long Beach. Like
Cherry Beach? Or...
it's Cherry Beach, which we can get to later.
Yeah.
But 72nd Street.
Yeah.
I'm only naming these spots because they're so mainstream. Like everyone knows what they are.
Yeah. You're not going to talk about the really good spots.
And we can talk about why on that later too.
Yeah.
It's more to protect myself than anything, you know. So I would just cast it out and then let it sink to the bottom, engage, and then just twitch. Slow. You can just dead stick it. You can just leave a little bit of slack, to see the bite,
Yeah.
Twitch. Very finesse, slow style of fishing.
Yes.
But when that little fluke's in the water, it's just dancing.
Yeah, right.
Even if you're just dead sticking it, it's moving with the current like that.
Yep.
And if you're if you have your right space between your leader and sinker, you're in the bite zone 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And so you're not questioning where your jerkbait is swimming. You're not questioning like, oh, is my plastic going to get snagged on a Texas rig or something?
Yeah.
You're just in that water column, the right space. So you just work it in nice and slow. And then if a halibut's there, so I caught most of my halibut that way in like the first year.
Yeah.
Like so many, like why can't you be legal? Like 18, 19 inch, 14-inch, 21-inch wide, you know.
I know.
And then during that time, I would keep hearing about Lucky Craft. $20? Like, what the heck?
I know, right?
But finally, I was like, I gotta buy one. So
Bite
I bought
the bullet.
Yeah, I bought a metallic sardine. You know, it's expensive, and I dabbled with it. Went out maybe 2 times. You know, this doesn't work. You know, like, or I didn't get bit, so I just put it away. Month goes by, and then finally, I'm seeing more people catch with it. So I'm like, this has to work. I just suck. So, and this is classic Benji Kim fishing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
And I'm not stopping until I figure it out.
Yeah.
So it was probably, I think, October. I forget what year. It was in October, November-ish. I'm like, I'm not throwing anything else. I'm only throwing the Lucky Craft. So from October till maybe December or January, and at that time, as a stay-at-home dad, I was dropping the kids off at school, and I was going to fish almost every day, 3 to 5 times a week, right? Like every day for 2 to 3 hours. So during those months, I was doing that, and I was skunking so much. I would catch an occasional like short halibut with it, you know, but never had a good day with it. And like, dude, that's 4 months of grinding, man. Like without any payout, you know? But I was like, it's gotta be me. It's gotta be me. I know it works. There's too many people catching with it. It's gotta be me. So I just kept doing it. And January came and I said, screw this, I quit, right? I was like, forget it. I'm going back to my Carolina rig.
Yeah.
Right? So from January till about September, I just went back to the Carolina rig thing. Summer rolled around, sight fishing corbina.
Yeah.
And then September rolled around and I saw my box of Lucky Crafts and I'm like, let's try this again.
Yeah.
And I think it was September or October. I went to the beach and it was a session where I think on the Lucky Craft probably caught like 4 to 5 good sized yellowfin croaker. I think caught like a calico or sand bass, a couple of those, and then I caught a 27-inch white sea bass.
Oh shoot!
Yeah, and
just missed. Huh?
Yeah, and again, I've never seen one in person at the time. So when I saw it, I'm like, what is that? I'm like, oh my gosh, is that a sea bass? And I was like, oh,
yeah, right.
27-inch, and I was like, and it was game over after that.
Of course, man.
I went out the next week again, and then I caught my first legal on the Lucky Craft.
Oh, nice.
My first legal came way earlier on a drop shot, but I caught a couple up to then. But when I came back to the Lucky Craft, caught a legal. So it was like the sea bass.
We got lunch coming, it sounds like.
Yeah. Got the sea bass, got a legal halibut, and then a couple weeks later I caught a legal white sea bass.
Oh shoot.
32 inches.
So my question is, were you doing something different when you got back into it?
Nothing that like mentally, oh yeah, I'm gonna make this adjustment.
Yeah.
I think what it is it's cadence. It's just, and I think like over all those months and thousands of casts, I think finally it got tuned in to like the retrieval rate.
Yeah.
And it's just cadence. And when you're first starting, you're probably going to be going too fast because you're trying to catch up with the lure when the swell's coming through. Like there's all these little things, right? So, but now like at that point, I think like mentally just something had shifted. I don't know, you know, but something had to have changed, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it maybe just like all those thousands of casts, you had it drilled into your head what was not working, even if it was subliminal.
Yeah.
And then you started trying something different, and then you stumbled onto what was working.
Yeah. So
although I have found fishing jigs and that, I mean, sometimes one cadence will, a slower retrieve this day works really good, and then it doesn't work this day, right? You've got to be kind of open to that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So I think so that 3-session stretch where they were almost back to back was like, it was just, after that, it was just game over. And I was throwing the Lucky Craft 90% of the time on the surf. And so,
Benji, you also mentioned, we're talking halibut right now, but man, you catch them. It seems like your barred perch and your yellowfin croaker are bigger when they're on the Lucky Craft. It seems that way.
Yeah, I think the benefit of the hard bait, the benefit of the Lucky Craft is you're going to get less bites, but the quality in general is going to be better.
Seems like it.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you still catch small fish on the Lucky Craft for sure, and you get less bites for sure. Like if I'm sea rigging, but the thing with the sea rig is, for me personally, it got a little old because I would have 30 fish days, but we're catching, most of them are little perch this big, super fun, right? Yeah. But then you pull on a legal white sea bass, or like a big striper, or or a legal halibut, and it's just a different kind of adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
So then I think my mind kind of shifted towards chasing that. And for me, it was like I'd rather get one good bite than like 30 small ones.
Yeah, 100%.
And so like,
are you going spectra to that lure, or are you going to fluorocarbon?
Yeah,
what are you doing?
I run. It's evolved, but it's always been braid. So anywhere from 20 to 30 pound braid.
Yeah.
And then anywhere from, like, I used to use 12-pound fluorocarbon. Right now I'm using 20-pound fluorocarbon. And yeah, so I use a connection to tie my braid to fluoro.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the fluoro is more for the abrasion resistance more than anything. On back-to-back sessions, I was running straight braid for a while, and then 2 consecutive days I lost 2 consecutive legal halibut.
Oh my!
And I was fishing reefs, and I was running straight braid, and like I didn't know, but apparently braid is like noodle, like, against structure. So I learned my lesson. And then just run the fluorocarbon for the abrasion resistance.
Perfect. You mentioned that you're protecting yourself by not putting out some. Tell me what you mean by that.
So
you're not going to throw out your favorite beach or where it's most productive.
I mean, I fish. Again, like, I don't think that I'm that secretive of a person. But I think I do get a lot of comments on my channel. Because I don't reveal where I'm fishing. So, newer fishermen who genuinely are just asking a question. Where is this? And people who get mad. There are people who are really mean that call me selfish, and call me names and stuff like that. But for me, like, I think when I entered the fishing world, I very quickly realized there's a thing called spot burning. It just is a thing. It doesn't matter if you're fishing ponds, lakes, sport boats, whatever, spot burning is a thing, especially with the advent of social media and all that kind of stuff.
10,000 guys on a spot tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's...
Spot burning, why don't you explain that?
Yeah, so my understanding of spot burning is basically the idea of revealing, whether it be through social media or, announcing or whatever, where you're fishing, and then it's called burning when you reveal that for the masses to be able to come and know where that is.
Right.
It's a fishing thing, and it sounds ridiculous, but it's a part of our fishing world. What side of the fence you lie on, it's there. You know? And so, when I first started fishing, I would ask where. Like on the forums and stuff like that. And I noticed that I wouldn't get any responses. It wasn't like people would be like, don't ask that question. It's just I wouldn't get any responses. So I was like, that's interesting. And I realized, okay. And then I very quickly realized, okay, you don't ask that online. Like, I mean, you do, but
you're not going to get an answer.
You're not really going to get that much. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, I'm a guest in this world. Like, I'm not entitled to anything. Like, if anyone can ask a question, but, So, that's how I learned. And I was like, okay, well, I got to find my own spots. So I went out there and...
Which is part of the whole adventure.
And that really is the joy of fishing for me.
Correct.
And so that's what I want other people to experience. It's not just about, like, giving you a GPS location. But more than anything, the reason why I'm protective of and not reveal things, or at least not make it obvious on videos and social media, is because, there are a lot of guys out there that's where they like to fish. And so it's more...
And they're friends of yours, and they call you once in a while maybe and say, hey, the bite is hot here. I mean, they kill you.
Well, they might be friends or they might not be friends. But they're fellow fishermen who also put in the time and work. And have been doing it a long time. And I respect them. And so it's out of respect for the guys that have been doing it longer than me. And
I get that, Benji, 100%.
It's like, dude,
it's like your code group.
Well, it's not, and these aren't people that I necessarily know. Some of them I might. Some of them I've never met them. I don't know who they are, but I know that there's other people out there putting in the hard work. And so it's more to respect their hard work. For me, I don't really care that much. So when people email me, I'm actually pretty, like, generous, as long as they're nice, But like, I think, so there's actually, in the old school, there are really, really nice people out there, kind-hearted guys, and for sure I do out of respect for them. There's also mean guys.
Of course.
I've heard stories of, tires being slashed from people because they're burning spots. They're driving up to Malibu, and I've heard, like, they're very territorial in certain places. And I've heard of, like, vandalism. Aside from, like, online, being really mean online and that kind of stuff, and I just try to avoid all that kind of stuff. So I don't necessarily agree with people like that. I don't, but at the same time, like, it's also kind of like there is an element of fear that I don't want to cross those
the wrong
guys either. You know, just at least do my best. You know, I'm filming. Sometimes, you know, you can't help but show certain things,
that would identify.
But yeah, but I don't show background. You know, I like catch fish. I'm not gonna show like the bluff behind me or the parking lot. You know, I just try to keep it front and center. And if you can see a reef that's familiar to you, then awesome, man. Go after it.
Yeah.
You know, but. Yeah, so that's kind of like where I'm at. Like, I feel like as a content creator, like when it comes to this, it's like if I do it like this, then this side's gonna be pissed at me.
Yeah.
If I do it like this side's gonna be pissed at me. So I'm in a kind of a lose-lose situation. Right. Someone's always gonna be mad at me. Yeah. So, you know, I try to be Switzerland. I try to be as neutral as possible.
Yeah.
But again, like, so right now where I stand, I get like 99% of like the negative comments I get regarding spot burning is from the newer fishermen who call me selfish.
Yeah.
I know that just by nature of being a fishing content creator, by nature, I'm still a spot burner.
Yeah.
By the definition.
Yeah.
Like automatically. So I know, even though I don't get a lot of comments from that school that hate what I'm doing just by virtue of it being online.
Yeah.
I don't get too many comments from them. And generally speaking, the guys that I do meet and talk to, they appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know? And so for me, like, again, I'm a guest in this world. You know, I'm a guest in this fishing industry. I'm not entitled to anything. So I've been trying to navigate my place in this world with respect, and honor like the work and the love that's gone in from years past. So I choose to respect the guys that have been doing it longer than me the best I can. Yeah. And then, you know, so that's where my heart is.
And hopefully that will make it clear to everybody out there, because it's perfectly, I mean, anybody who's been in the sport fishing business, if you have a code group, I know this is different, but some of it, I mean, the minute you burn that code group and you put that info out about where these fish are biting, you're out of that code group.
Right.
And I remember I was going on a private boat, and there was a guy named Eddie McEwen. A lot of the old timers will know him. He used to run the Pacific Queen. And I called Eddie up, and I said, "Hey, Eddie, where are you catching those big eye? I know you're out there near San Clemente Island." And he said, "Phil, you're not putting this on 976 tuna, are you?" And I go, "No, Eddie, you have my word. Yeah. I'm going on a private boat. I'd like to catch those fish." And boom, GPS locations. Believe me, that would never, I never would put that out. That would be betraying a friendship and being dishonorable. Right. And we went there and caught big eye and albacore and everything else, and had a great day. But I know what you're talking about. You can't betray those friendships and the hard work that somebody else has put in, because they don't magically come upon those fish. They work their asses off to find it.
I mean, I think like social media, like, it makes it fishing looks easy. You know, sometimes it is, sometimes it is, but more often than not, you know, you're putting in a lot of work to find that one fish. Yeah. You know, and so, you know, for the newer fishermen, and I have a lot of empathy for the newer fishermen. I built my channel for the newer fishermen. Yeah. So that's the conflict. So I understand, right? Like, I'm attracting a lot of newer fishermen. Yeah. Why aren't you helping me? Well, you know, like, why aren't you helping? You're not you say you want to help, but you're just selfish. You won't tell me where. And that's the number one question. And because I don't answer that question, I'm the bad guy. Yeah. I'm like, and I get it. Like there, I do feel like, oh man, I don't feel good. But at the same time, that's really, to me, not what fishing is, you know? And so I want to bring the newer fishermen into like, hey, do you really love this game? Yeah. And do you get the same kind of therapy from this that I do? And if so, like, let's learn together. You know, and this is the process that I took. I'm not doing anything that I didn't do myself, right? Like, when I first started, I didn't meet Phil, who took me to, you know, Surfside.
I was that big a jerk, when we met?
No, you know, like no one took me to, you know, like, I really had to put in the work, you know?
Yeah,
and then you meet friends along the way. So if you really want to know where spots are, just get out there, fish as much as possible.
Meet some people.
You're going to meet people on the sand. If you're out there enough in the summertime, you're going to meet people. And it's not transactional. It's about people. It's about relationships. Yeah. So you meet people, you get to be friends, you know, and then you share, you know, and then you can work together, you know, like, and that to me is maybe like the easiest way of learning spots is through friendships.
Believe me, I get that all the time, in that when I see somebody made a great catch, whether it's surf or anything, and I'll say, hey, love to do an interview with you in there. Well, I'm not going to tell you where I caught him. And I'm like, I don't care where you got him.
Yeah.
I mean, if we could say, like, in Southern California, that would make my life easier, so at least I can identify the state that we're in, or the country. Right. Other than that, I don't care. I mean, I do care. You can tell me personally. Yeah. I'm curious. Yeah. Okay, cool. But I'm not going to betray you and put that out there.
Right. Yeah. So, that it's just, I think that's just what fishing is. I don't care if you're a lake fisherman or whatever, like, it's just like the whole spot thing. It's just always going to be like an inflammatory thing.
Yeah.
Where if you take one position, the other position is going to be mad at you.
Oh, yeah.
And again, it's just, so I'm doing it the best I can. And, hope for newer fishermen, I hope you can understand, and if not, that's okay too.
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can with what I know, and I'm definitely not perfect. So.
Yeah, I understand, Benji. So that's all that matters in this.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
What other fish do you like to catch on the surf? What would you? I'm kind of crazy about yellowfin croaker. I love yellowfin croaker. Dude. I love that. That feel when when it's a yellowfin croaker.
Yeah.
No. It's such a cool feeling.
Yeah. No. When I first started with the Carolina rig. I would catch a lot. Like we'd be fishing like Huntington Beach or whatever, and the schools of croaker would come in, and those were the times where we catch like 20, 30 fish.
Yeah, exactly.
And but I will say, when I was sea rigging, I sort of started getting sick of it because it was just so easy, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh man, I just want to catch a big corbina. Where's the big corbina at? And we're just catching these croaker. So for a couple of years, I was kind of down on it, YFC. I was kind of like, oh man, it's just another croaker.
Yeah, right.
Just another croaker.
Yeah, I get that too.
But now that I'm doing the Lucky Craft,
yes.
And if you can get into a school of croaker with a Lucky Craft, oh man, I love catching croaker.
So much fun.
They fight better than halibut. And again, with the Lucky Craft, you're going to get better quality most of the time. And so, I started catching bigger ones, and it was like, dude, I'll take these all day, especially if they're schooled up at this size.
Yeah, right.
Like the best, I think the best session from SoCal Surf I've ever had was when I caught a 32-inch halibut, which is my personal best. But
that's a nice one, Benji.
But prior to that 32, for like an hour, the first hour, I think I caught like 8 or 9 croaker, and the smallest one was like 17 inches.
Wow.
Like, not even kidding. It was like wide open. Like,
wow.
It was literally, as soon as I can shake that off and put a tape on and let him go, the next cast. And like, I'll take that all day.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Like, I know it's not as like, ooh, you caught a big halibut, but like, I'll take those, like, croakers like 15 and up. Yeah. I'll take those all day.
Oh my God, those are nice fish.
It's so
fun. They almost look different when they start to get up there around 19.
Yeah.
They look like a redfish, or they have a weird look to them. I got one on St. Patrick's Day on a green lure that was just short of 22 inches.
Holy crap!
Yeah, in fact, we looked it up, and the largest one in the DFG book was 21 3/4.
So that's technically
we went to Big Fish, and it was a guy, Fred Oakley.
Okay.
And I knew Fred.
Yeah.
He used to come fishing on the Redondo Social. So my kids convinced me that if we went through the process and got this world record, they'd have a parade for me in Seal Beach. So we're driving around, and we went to Big Fish and measured it. Rada's like, oh my God, that it. And then finally, it got to be such a hassle that morning. I pulled into this Cambodian donut place that I go to for coffee. Yeah. I said, hey, girls, would you like to have this for? And they're like, oh, yeah, thank you. Done.
Yeah.
Forget the parade and everything.
Dude, that's.
But that's a nice one, man. And when I hook that, I'm always doing the filming.
Yeah.
And I go, Philip, to my son.
Yeah.
Shoot some video. This is a really nice video.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
So he shot some video, and this
that's massive.
22 inch.
That's massive.
21 3/4.
Yeah. No, I think the biggest one I've caught is 20.
That's a big one, man.
No, I mean, no, but so just to put it into context, 22 or almost 22 is freaking huge.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I still have I've got the photos and the ruler and everything.
Yeah,
that's it looked awesome. Different, like, Benji. It looked weird.
Yeah, for sure.
St. Patrick's Day, man, a green lure. Dude, what can I tell you?
You put the fish gods in their favor, man. They have favor on you, bro. Yeah, that's awesome.
The economic times are a little trying nowadays, and I hear guys all the time say, I'm going to sell my gear. I can't afford to go on the boats anymore. Man, the surf fishing door opens wide open for them, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's what it is. I think the surf is like always there. It's a year-round fishery. Granted, a little slower in the wintertime, but it's legitimately a year-round fishery.
Yep.
And sport boats are fantastic, but even the most avid sport boat angler might go on like 10 trips a season. Yeah. At the most, right? But most guys are going like a small handful of times. Yeah. What do you do in between? You pay $5 for parking or whatever, or free, and you can just have fun. And it's just about getting this therapy, man. Like, I think you go out there and you clear the mind.
Yep.
And so it's It's a beautiful thing.
There's nothing like it. Yeah. Anything else that I mean, we can always do a part 2. After this, I will be interested in a part 2. Maybe the part 2 is going to be our trip to Mexico.
Oh, dude, I am down for that, Phil.
All right, so, I am too, Benji.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, we can talk forever. I mean, we didn't even really get to break down halibut, You want
to break it down a little bit more?
I think like. No.
We've got everybody's appetite pretty well. Yeah, we'll do it next time.
Yeah, we'll do it next time. Okay, that sounds fine. Yeah. Because that's opening up a whole can of worms. I think it'll be like another 30 minutes. So
I'm fine with that if you want.
We can pause on that.
Whatever you want to do.
You can check out the channel. I think I have a whole bunch of like halibut videos, how to catch halibut.
Tell everybody again how they can find you.
Yeah, Benji Kim Fishing on YouTube. And I get a lot of questions like, but honestly, I think every single question I've tried to answer over the years. And so they've probably been answered. Rod, reel, techniques, how to identify structure. I don't tell you exactly where, but I'll tell you what to look for, how to know when to go, and why you might want to fish low tide, high tide. You know, all of those things. It's all broken down there. So if you want to check it out, leave me a comment. I do my best to get back to you. And but just welcome to the learning.
Perfect.
That's all it is.
I can tell you all after this. Not only is Benji an incredible fisherman, not only is he an incredible guest here on Fragment Adventures, but you impressed me as being so honest about all of this, and that you can take to the bank. Going to your channel and watching it, you're not going to get BS. I can see that.
I appreciate that a lot. Thank
Benji,
you.
What a pleasure.
Good stuff. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, my friend.
Yeah.
Let's do it again soon.
Whenever you want.
Mexico.
Let's do it.
All right.
Thank you.